Okay, so this is section 1.4. It's been a few days since you've done this, so we'll just go through it. I may not do every problem. I'll probably just go through, kind of highlight, and then if you remember a problem and say, I didn't understand how to do that, then we can do it. Does that work? But looking at this for problems 1 through 9, section 1.4, we talked about midpoints of segments. It was really focusing on segments where 1.5 was angles, and then 1.6 was your polygons. Okay, so number 1, if we were to look for AB, what do we know about AB?
It is half of 24.
Yeah, so it's 12. GA? 5. ED? 5. HE?
It'd be 13.
HE. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Measure of angle HDC.
90.
Yep. Find FA. Where's FA? Okay. 10. We're getting the idea here?
Yeah.
Feeling pretty good with this one? Okay, looking at this one then. The pictures seem complicated when you look at them, but if you just take your time and go through what you know and label what you know on the graph. So when you take this quiz and when you take a test, I want you to have paper next to you so you can actually write and do work, not just try and figure it out on your screen, because you might make a mistake that way. I'd rather see you try and work it out. So just quickly draw a figure like this, label all the things you know, and then use that to kind of guide your answers.
When I did it, I took a picture on my Snapchat, and then I used the drawing tool and drew in the
That's cool.
numbers.
That works pretty well. Okay. All right, so angle bisector. What is an angle bisector?
A line that is in between the two sides of an angle.
And what does it create when it goes in between?
Two angles.
That are
Equal.
Yep. So if we're trying to figure out an angle bisector, to me, the first thing I'm going to do is look for two adjacent angles that have equal symbol markings, right? The two that pop up are right there. So I can see this and this are two congruent angles. So that means that this line, and you have to label it as a segment or a line, so it would be PS or SP. You can't just call it S. This is a capital S, so that means it's a point. It's not a little s, identifying it as the line. So the way I'd name this, if I were to answer it, is PS or SP, is the angle bisector. Okay? P is the midpoint of what two segments?
VS and QT.
Yeah, and we can tell that because those P and these two have the double angle or the double line markings for segments, and these two also do. So we know that P must be the midpoint. What's the measure of angle QPR? You're thinking, how do I do that? Because none of these are actually marked, but we do have one marked. It's 90. QPR is 90, right? Angle TPS, so this one. Well, if this is 90, that's 90, and half of 90 is 45. Okay, are we good on that drawing? Okay, let's go on to this drawing. So when you have a problem like this, you just need to identify what we're given. We know this is 90. We know these two are equal. So I know these two, each one is equal to what measure? 45. So then I'm just going to use algebra and take 2x plus 9 equals 45. 27 equals 45, and solve for x. Right? And then the y's don't have anything to do with the angles. Now the y's are talking about the segments. Right? So the segment markings, they're showing those two segments are equal. So I could just set those two expressions equal to each other and solve. Good there? Okay, here these two angles are shown to be congruent. So I can just set those two equal to each other. 5x minus 8 equals 8. Or 62, sorry.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
We were told to come to you to figure out Canvas because
Oh.
the assignment got locked and she printed it.
Okay, just have a seat. I will be done here in just a minute, and then I can help. What class are you in?
It's a study hall.
But what are you working on? What English with Sulik? Okay, and it's saying it's locked,
Yes.
so she's going to have to open it.
Okay.
But I can tell her that, and just give me a second, and I can help.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Here, 2 equal again, right? But this time we're not given anything on this one. So what could we do to set that equation up?
Divide 150 by 2.
Okay, we could divide 150 by 2 and say this is equal to 75. Or, that's the easiest way, I think. Or we could put a 2 in front of this, because it's 2 of these, and set it equal to 150. Same thing, but looking for the easiest route is usually the best. Okay, this is equal to 90, right? Solve for D. These two segments are equal, so set them equal. This is kind of a mess of a drawing, but it's not a bad problem. What do we know about these two angles?
They're the same.
They're vertical, so they're equal, so we could set those two equal to each other. And then we know 2 of these equals the 65, so 1 of these must be half of 65. And then just set your equation up. That makes sense? Lace? This represents this angle. So 2 of that is equal to the whole of 65. 1 is equal to half of 65. Make sense? Midpoints, everybody knows the midpoint formula. You're good. It's just the average of the x's and the average of the y's, right? x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. Make sure you remember the formula.
So, okay. Are we going to have a formula sheet?
Now, I do have some things, as you go through the class, some things up. Midpoint formula is not one of them. Distance formula is, but so use whatever resources you have, but you won't have the midpoint. And the midpoint, just remember, it's the averages of the x's. To find the average of any number, you add the numbers up, divide by the number you have, right? If I wanted to find the average of 10 numbers, I add those 10 numbers up and I divide by 10. If I want to find the average of 2 numbers, which is what I'm dealing with x and y, I just divide by 2. Okay. Okay, we're good on 1-4?
Yes.
I needed, I was confused about the very last problem.
Okay, so the problem with this, if you remember, if I want to say that the two things are equal, I'm talking about the measures. So I need to say the measure of segment AB is equal to the measure of segment CD. I can't just say segment AB is equal to segment CD. I could say they're congruent, but the measures are what are equal. So if I did, I could either say the word measure in front, or I could take the word segment out. Remember, if I just have AB without the bar on top of it is equal to CD, that's right. But if I actually put the bar on top of it, I have to put the M in front. That help?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back and look at 1-5. Ta-da. I swear. Okay, we're talking complementary, supplementary, vertical here. Measure of an angle that's complementary to 45. What's complementary angles?
Equals 90. Yeah. So 45.
45, right? 82. Now this is measure of an angle that's complementary. Okay, 82.
Should be 90 minus 82.
So 8 degrees. 19, 90 minus, etc. Supplementary, I'm going to subtract this from,
Yeah.
here?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say Z was 30. How would I find the angle complementary to Z? Just tell me the process.
90 minus C.
Yeah.
So
If Z was 30, it'd be 90 minus 30 to give me the complement. If it's Z, it'd just be 90 minus Z.
okay, because we don't have the actual numbers.
Right.
So for our answer, we would write
90 minus Z.
Okay.
Supplementary, I do the same thing, but it's 180 now. And 180 minus X. A pair of vertical angles. This one and this one. One linear pair of angles. This one and this one. They're also supplementary. They're also adjacent. Two complementary. Those two, because they add up to 90. we good with these? Vertical angles are always congruent. Linear pairs are sometimes congruent. Complementary angles do not add up to 180, they add up to 90. Supplementary add up to 180. Adjacent angles share a vertex, true. Adjacent angles overlap, false. They're next to each other, but they don't overlap. Complementary angles are 45 degrees, no. Sometimes. You get two angles that are 45, they'd be congruent. The complement of x degrees is 90 minus x, true. Here, you'd set these equal to each other and solve. Here, you'd add them up and set them equal to 180 and solve. Equal and solve. Add up to 180 and solve. 180 and solve. Equal. Problem like this, we know each one of these is equal to 45, so we just set this equal to 45. And here, we know this is equal to 90. It's vertical. This one, this is 90, so these two must be 90. So we could add this and this, but that's an x, so let's not do that. Let's set these two equal to each other, solve for x, figure out this angle, and then say that angle plus this angle is equal to 90, and solve. All right? I need to do this one? Are we okay?
We're good.
We're good. Speak now. Okay. So we'd be able to solve for y here by setting these two equal. And then we would be able to use that angle or this angle. These are a linear pair, so those together add up to 180. Then I could solve for x. Here, if I look at my x's, they're vertical, so I could set them equal. If I look at my y, once I know one of these angles, I would add it to this one, add it and make it equal to 180 and solve for y. Okay. Okay, factoring, I did put, I don't know if you guys got that far where you could see the videos I put in the document. There were problems here where you had to factor, and so I wanted you to be able to review factoring if you had forgotten. But here I would just say x squared minus 11x equals 60, and with a quadratic, I've got to get the 60 to the other side and set it equal to 0, and then factor. So it would be x squared minus 11x minus 60 equals 0, and then factor the left, and then solve for x. Okay, so if you've forgotten how to factor, you might watch those two videos. Sometimes on the tests, the actual chapter tests, I'll put bonus questions in, and this would probably be similar to a bonus question. So it would, be something you'd have some extra credit if you knew how to factor.
So are these going to be a main for the test? Like, are those going to be like problems that we're going to see a lot, or like you said, are they just going to be like bonus?
The quadratic will probably be a bonus,
Okay.
but the other problems we've been going through, you might have a couple like that on
Oh
the.
yeah, I'm fine with those.
But these, yeah.
Okay.
And again, x squared minus 5x plus 158 minus 4x equals 180. Combine all your like terms, get everything moved over to the left, set it equal to 0, and factor. Okay, and this is a factoring and factoring. So if you've forgotten how to factor, you might go watch those videos. Okay, I'm just going to do 1.4 and 1.5 today because the quiz will just be covering these two. We'll review 1.6 before the test.
Okay.
Okay?
Could you try to unlock the section at 1.3, please?